The Post warned students not to attend school today and made reference to Boca Raton High School. Parents are still electing to keep their children home.
My daughter's not at school today and won't be tomorrow either.
Not if the PA system's not up and running.
And a former president is coming to South Florida to give Governor Rick Scott a boost in his U.S. Senate campaign. George W. Bush is the special guest at a fundraiser in Palm Beach tonight. Supporters can attend the Bush event for a suggested donation between $1,000 and $25,000. That's your news update. I'm Mike Bergen for Karen Curtis. Stay connected to news anytime at 850WFTL.com.
Police activity is still affecting Gateway Boulevard and North Congress Avenue, which means Boynton Beach High School remains on lockdown. Traffic's brought to you by Firestone Complete Auto Care. The drive right now on the surface reads also busy in the area of Southern Boulevard East before Sainsbury's Way. This is where we have a crash and 2 right lanes blocked. Keep your car running longer. Come into Firestone Complete Auto Care September 13th to the 16th for their epic sales event and get $100 off any purchase of $500 or more. Whatever you drive a Firestone. Restrictions and exclusions apply. Details at
20 seconds. You have an intro.
On 850 WFTL.
I'm meteorologist Chris Farrell for CBS 12 News. A nice start to our Friday. Just a few isolated coastal showers today. 1 or 2 inland afternoon storms. Otherwise, mainly sunny to partly cloudy with a high.
10 seconds.
Over the weekend, looks pretty nice with a sunny to partly cloudy sky for Saturday and
5.
30% chance for coastal showery stay.
Here's your intro.
Storms, highs near 90.
Police protect our homes, families, businesses, and communities. Yet they're under constant attack. This is Cops Under Siege, featuring officers injured in the line of duty. Brought to you by Southern Yankee Guns. Now, here's Rich Stevens on Facebook Live and News Talk 850 WFTL.
If you're watching us on Facebook Live this morning, you can go to the 850 WFTL page and see the video, and hopefully you can share the video as well. Ever since the first Cops Under Siege panel, you've been asking us to revisit some of the topics that we discussed, only dig a little deeper. That's what we are going to do today. We listened. We're going to discuss issues facing police and our communities. And we have some new people on the panel this time. I want to introduce my panel guests, and I'm not sure where everybody's sitting because I'm kind of in the middle here. So Christine McIntyre on my left side to the end. She's a former New York City Transit cop. Patrick Franklin is over to my right here. He's the Urban League of Palm Beach County president and CEO. Welcome, Patrick.
Thank you.
Welcome, Christine. On the end here with the cowboy head is Sergeant Frank Danish. He's a former Boynton Beach police officer, sergeant, and founder of Adopt a Cop USA. Welcome, Sergeant.
Thank you, sir.
To my left, good friend Sheriff Alan Birdie, who, of course, is the former Broward County Sheriff, sitting to my left over here. And to my right, another good friend, Rich Best, who is currently an active officer, but he's not in that capacity today, of course. He joins us as the founder of Team South Florida. Welcome to the panel, Rich, and thanks for coming today.
Thank you very much.
The panel's brought to you by our friends at Southern Yankee Guns in Delray Beach on the corner of Linton and Military. Can we all acknowledge, and also I want to welcome our audience as well, so give yourself a round of applause for, thank you for winning tickets or however you came here today. Really do appreciate it. Can we first of all, on the panel, and we could go one at a time, we don't have to all talk at the same time together, can we all acknowledge that we definitely have some problems when it comes to police and our local communities? Who wants to take this first?
I will.
Okay.
Absolutely. And I think a big part of it is the misconceptions that are brought through the media. And I really appreciate you bringing the truth out to the masses to really share the other side of the badge from all these esteemed guests here on this panel.
Who's next?
And Rich, I would just add, any profession has issues within it, but law enforcement, the hiring process that we go through, it's probably one of the most in-depth hiring processes for any profession that there is. I mean, we do psychological testing, extensive background. Is it tough to weed out every single person? No, but we do the best job we can. But again, I think law enforcement's been demonized. I agree with Frank, by the media unfairly to a point.
But have we also gotten to a point where maybe we need to look at our hiring processes to see that maybe, even though we've been doing these same processes for so many years, as you mentioned, there's several psychological background tests that are done. But as you and I have discussed on numerous occasions, if somebody didn't do something, then they don't have a background to begin with. So is it time maybe we look differently? And granted, we're only talking about probably less than 1% of police officers who are the bad apples in the bunch. But as you said, it comes with every profession. It's not just police officers, but because police officers are such high profile people, and these people that, excuse me, that are getting shot by these bad apples unnecessarily and in situations where, you have to stand back and shake your head and wonder, what were these people thinking when they did this?
Well, as you and I have spoken about in the past, a lot of these issues that have been in the forefront recently started with non-compliance by the person involved. And that unfortunately has escalated the situation in most of these high-profile incidents. Whether it's you agree or not agree, you have to comply, with law enforcement.
Well, here it's funny that you bring that up, because this is where I want to start. This was a story that I brought to my show yesterday, and I've yet to see this story anywhere in the mainstream media, and that's one of the problems that bothers me. And I was talking to Patrick Franklin, who's the Urban League of Palm Beach County president and CEO, who's joining us on the panel today, and I greatly appreciate that. And one of the biggest problems that I think we continue to see is that people in the black communities are scared to death of cops today more than ever. And this is the story that happened in Tallahassee that he wasn't aware of. And no disrespect to you, but a lot of people aren't aware of it because the mainstream media just let this story go by. And it's amazing to me because it's a very disturbing story. And what happened is 4 black students were entering the elevator at their campus building when the building manager, who was white, pulled out a gun and asked where they were going. And then when one of the students was asked after the situation, why didn't they pull out their cell phone and call police? And he said, and I'm quoting now, "We didn't want to get killed."
Rich, in today's society, many black African Americans are very fearful of the police right now. And you look at it from young kids to senior citizens. And all too often we are in a situation where we have to teach our kids to be respectful, to be absolutely vigilant of their surroundings and what they do. I have an 18-year-old son, and for many years, I've drilled in his head how to react whenever he would get stopped by a police officer, and he was within his first year of driving.
Can you share that story?
Sure.
How you
Sure.
taught him?
And I'm not the only one. Many black parents do this. We have to teach our children that you won't settle an issue or whatever you think you're being disrespected at the spot of you being stopped or encountered by a law enforcement official. It won't be settled there. If you are having an issue, let it be taken up later on during at some other period, not there at the spot. But always be respectful, even to the point of how you react with your hands. How do you react and how do you respond? Okay, because all too often we see right now that issues occur, and it doesn't take much to ignite an issue. A false move, a false word, anything can ignite an issue. And we teach our children right now to identify their environment, understand what's going on, be respectful, handle the situation, do the best that you possibly can. But I teach my children and many other children, make sure you come home the way that you left. Okay? And whatever it takes to do that, make sure you come home the way you left.
And it's interesting that you said that, because that's the same thing that police officers say.
Right.
And they're told right before they go out on their shift, make sure you come home tonight to your family, which is the same exact thing, but on a different level. I see Rich is making a little bit of an expression on your face here. Your thoughts?
I agree with a lot of what was just said, with the exception of maybe a false move. We have to be careful when we say certain words and certain phrases. That false move to somebody might be different perception-wise for a police officer who knows what they may have just come from. It's a violent world. We've We're up to 102 law enforcement officers killed in the line of duty this year. 102. So, yes, we all want to go home at the end of our shift, but I don't think this is a police officer versus one segment of the community issue. I think this is an issue for the entire country. I think it starts at the home with parenting. I think it continues in the school with the teachers. I think it continues as they grow up, these children. And I think it's respect at the end of the day from both sides. There's good and bad in every profession. Are mistakes made? Absolutely. Are we held accountable? Absolutely. I don't know of a single profession where I go to work every day. I worry about getting sued civilly, prosecuted criminally, charged administratively through internal processes, and then who knows this day and age publicly on the mainstream media. So we're up against quite a bit challenge-wise. And the other thing I want to add on is my sister's Caucasian. She was petrified when she was pulled over by the police her first time on a traffic stop. I think everybody in the audience can probably agree it's not pleasant being pulled over. I've been pulled over before. I may have gone a couple miles per hour over the speed limit once or twice, and I got pulled over. It's always a scary situation. I don't think it's comforting for anybody to be pulled over, but it's scary for that police officer too, and I think that may get forgotten at times.
Yeah, a lot of times people don't realize that it is scary for law enforcement as it is for the person at the same time. But as Sheriff Lamberti pointed out a few minutes ago, it's all about compliance. The problem is, the way I see it, and again, anybody take this please, is that compliance I don't think is taught in every household. And Patrick, you said that you taught your 18-year-old how to be compliant and what to do and what not to do.
But Rich, at the same time, compliance comes maybe after profiling has occurred. Okay, why am I stopped? That may be the initial issue, and if you're not doing anything wrong, and you're stopped because in the black community you could be stopped because you're black, driving while black. Okay. And we have to understand that issue first, because sometimes you get stopped for no reason whatsoever, because you may fit a profile of what's going on in the area of what's happening. And you may get some recall from that. We understand that. But at the same time, respect, and I like what the officer said, respect has to go both ways, and it has to be initiated both ways first. There's a lot that could be spoken and talked up before any type of action happens.
Well, action happens for different reasons, as Rich just pointed out, depending on the situation. And I agree with what you're saying. But then from a police officer standpoint, when they pull somebody over, and let's say it's at night, it's on a dark street, they have their spotlight on the mirror, which is lighting up mostly the face of the person in the car, they don't know what they're walking into. I was taught many years ago when I lived in New York, no matter when or where you get pulled over, roll down all the windows in the car, turn on the inside light, put your hands in the 10 o'clock and 2 o'clock position on the steering wheel, and wait for orders. That's what I was taught. And, from a police officer standpoint, is that something you would recommend as well?
100%, because from my perspective, when I'm walking up to that vehicle, I can see inside the vehicle. I can see that you don't have anybody laying on the back seat with a gun ready to shoot me as I approach the vehicle. I can see you don't have somebody kidnapped, held against their will at gunpoint. I can see inside that vehicle. It takes my stress level from up top way down low. It's showing the respect coming from you immediately. So when I approach your vehicle in that situation, I already see that I'm not only gaining compliance, but gaining respect. So it's incumbent on me to put out that same level of respect. And that's how the traffic stop starts.
Sheriff Lamberti, we know and we acknowledge that we definitely have a problem with our communities, both black and white. I'm just going to go out on a limb here and say more in the black community with white police officers. Communities like Riviera Beach, like West Palm Beach, parts of Broward County had tried to put in black police officers to kind of meld with the community. And you and I have talked about this before. We both grew up in New York. When I grew up in the Bronx, there was a guy named Frank who was on the corner, and he was the cop that just walked up and down the street. If you needed a couple of cents to buy some bubble gum, you asked Frank. Frank bought the gum for you. but that was a different time. And the times today, with all these high-profile cases, like the one I just told about that happened at FAMU, which is a very, very good school. And this, and by the way, I should mention that the building manager was arrested for brandishing a gun. Those
He should have been.
charges. He was.
Right, he should have been.
But that could have turned into a nasty situation as well. But to hear that kid say that when asked why I didn't call the police because we didn't want to get shot, I mean, that's really scary. So we have a problem. And my question is, A, is there a solution? And B, can we put the solution into effect that it actually brings everybody back together again? Or have we gotten to the point where we're so divided that it is what it is?
Well, one of the things I think going back from, and agree with Patrick, that absolutely we are divided, but it goes back to like when I started law enforcement, we have put so much on the plate of law enforcement that we've diluted our mission. Our mission is been to arrest criminals and prevent crime and stop crime. But now it's, I spoke to the chief of police in Dallas, David Brown, right after that shooting where the 5 officers were killed. And he said it best. He said, you know, over the past few decades, every problem that comes up in society, well, give that to the police to handle. Homelessness, give that to the police. Dealing with the mentally ill, give that to the police. And I understand that law enforcement is the highest profile part of government. We're the most visible to the public. So I know we're out there on the front line, but it's to the point where, you know, we're just spread so thin and stretched so thin as far as, well, we can't keep giving all these problems of society, put it on the shoulder of the police. And that has created a lot of tension, I think. And law enforcement officers are confused. You know, what are we? Are we a law enforcement agency? Are we a criminal justice agency? Are we a social service agency? And I think we've gotten to the point where we're expecting way too much from law enforcement.
So how do we fix that? How do we get towards the next step where black people are not scared to get pulled over? I mean, is there a solution to that?
I have a comment to make about that.
I thought you were just waving to me.
I do. I do love waving. I was in a lot of parades. The solution is real simple, and Pat said it earlier. It's about communication. He was talking about training his children. We talk about training police officers. The sheriff talks about hiring and training those police officers. The biggest problem in our community is the lack of communication between all these different facets. Are we hiring the best police officers that we've ever hired intelligently? Yes. Are they entitled to? Yes. Are they different? Yes. But if we don't communicate with our communities, where Pat's teaching his children, okay, when you get stopped by the police, this is what you do. Just like Rich said, roll down your window, put your hands on the wheel. When I pulled over police officers, and I worked in very serious areas in Boynton Beach for a lot of years, at night mostly, you can't see who's driving the car. And I can tell you probably 99.9% of the time when I pulled over a car, it was a car with illegal tint. So the other great thing about rolling down your windows is you're not going to get a ticket for illegal tint because now they can't see it. So, and it puts the officer at ease, like Rich said. So now you can start the communication process. And not all police officers should be police officers. And I think the sheriff will agree with that. And how do we get rid of those? That's a whole nother show. But the immediate solution is for people like Pat and people like Rich and the sheriff and Christine and I to come together to start that communication process. But I really appreciate what you said. But that's the key to this whole situation.
But you know what? When you look at what we hear too often is the incidents that happen and across this country where folks are now being seen with the body camera and in the car cam. They're seeing what's happening now in a lot of these incidents. A lot of them are bad. I'm horrified at some of the stuff I see when officers are doing their jobs on a daily basis, and it is the toughest job in the world. Okay, but at the same time, how do we get these bad officers off the street? Okay, how do we get the ones who are trigger happy right front, right off the bat, that are doing things that are being caught? And what I'm gonna tell you, the public, the black community is really outrageous about is that we see it now. We see it on video. We see it and hear it, and no one is being prosecuted.
Well,
okay.
Let me just say one thing to that, and Sheriff, I want to go back to you on to answer his question. But before we go there, I want to talk about the situation in Dallas, which is such an outrage. and I know my gut's telling me that there's more to the story, and I said it last week when I first brought the story. This is the female white cop that worked a 15-hour shift, came home, went to the wrong floor, the wrong apartment, walked in. She saw the shadow of a man, supposedly, this is her side of the story, and told him to get on the floor. He didn't. He kept coming towards her. She shot him in the chest 3 times and killed him. She was white. He's black. It was a different floor. The story doesn't make sense. Why there was no body cam, I don't know. We had some calls and people said, well, 15 hours is a lot of time to be on a shift. Well, they're so underserved there that they've been forced to work this extra shift.
Rich, I don't know. That was her side of the story, right?
Right. We don't. We have some witnesses that have come forward and tell a totally different story.
And we don't know that. We don't know all the pieces to that story. We just know a young man was in his apartment and he was shot.
Right. And that's very disturbing.
And we know that as the end result. We don't know what's going to be fabricated, what's going to be made up, what's going to be come out of whatever issue that's going to come out. But we know the young man is dead. He was at his apartment. There was no issue with him being in his apartment. So until we know the facts, until we know what's going on, we know one person shot one person. And I don't, if I'm just coming home and I was a police officer, would I be having my body camera on, walking into my apartment? No. Okay. But at the same time, she's going to be held responsible in some kind of way.
Without a doubt. We only have a couple of minutes before we take a break, Patrick. So I wanted to, whichever officer wants to take this question, in this specific case, was the guy, from just what we know, was the guy wrong for not complying with the police officer's commands in this particular situation, in your opinion?
How did he know who that was?
Was the guy, I'm sorry, say that again. So the guy wasn't wrong for not complying?
Well, the guy was in his own house.
Right.
The police officer standing in uniform at the door, takes a few steps in the house, sees somebody there. She thinks that somebody's robbing the place.
I think Patrick made a great point. It's very, very preliminary. But if I leave my house open all the time, if Rich walked in my house and said, put your hands up, I would put my hands up, not knowing anything is going on. I would have complied because I don't know what's going on. And like before anything can happen, okay, let's talk it out.
1 minute.
So that's my answer.
And Sheriff, your opinion there?
Just in general, no one that I know of condones police brutality. No one that I know of condones misconduct by the police. I mean, no officers get up in the morning and say, you know what, I'm going to go out there and kill an unarmed person. And that's some of what's being painted, that police officers are trigger happy. That is so far from we want to save lives, not take lives.
We only have a few seconds here, but when we see a story like we saw yesterday about the 7 NYPD officers that were busted for a prostitution ring, you have to scratch your head and say, well, wait a minute, there's something wrong with this picture, because that's the exact opposite of what
they crossed the line, and they have to be dealt with. I'm sure they will, but we can't condone that.
All right, you're listening to Cops Under Siege 2. Some great panelists here today. We have some more to come. Christine's going to talk, I think, in the next half hour. We'll be back right after this. Brought to you by our friends at Southern Yankee Guns at 850 WFTL.
Vote for Me 2018 is here, and we have all the South Florida races covered for you. Will the Democrats make up ground in the House and Senate? Who will be Florida's next governor? And what's Trump going to tweet? Get all the latest election information in news at the top and bottom of the hour, or anytime at 850WFTL.com.
Are there problems in your condominium or HOA? If so, listen to Condo Craze and HOAs each Sunday at 11 a.m. right here on 850 WFTL. The show is hosted by me, attorney Eric Laser, and I've been representing community associations and their owners for the last 25 years. I've heard a million condo and HOA stories, and on Sunday, I want to hear yours. Call in with your questions, and we'll answer them live on the air. That's Sunday at 11 a.m. on 850 WFTL. And to learn more about the show, just visit www.condocrazeandhoas.com.
Hey, South Florida, tune in Saturday afternoon at 2 for the latest in natural and conventional medicine. Check out Holistic Healthline, the show that's entertaining, enlightening, and most of all, fun. Celebrity interviews, the latest research, and your calls make Holistic Healthline your direct line to health. Join Jane, Peter, and Dr. Jensen for Holistic Healthline every Saturday afternoon at 2 on News Talk 850 WFTL.
Join Anthony Perry for Safe Money Talk Radio, sponsored by the Perry Financial Group, specializing in wealth preservation, tax, financial, and estate planning since 1985, with offices in Coral Springs and Boca Raton. Call 888-755-8887. Anthony Perry discusses fixed annuities and safe money strategies on Safe Money Talk Radio, Saturdays at 11 and 11:30, Sundays at 10 and 10:30 on 850 WFTL.
When's the best time to have your old roof redone in Florida? That's easy. Right now, because Peters & Dean Roofing is celebrating 35 years in business by providing an instant manufacturer rebate of up to $2,000 off any roofing project. Plus, we have a plethora of easy financing options fit for any situation, so stop putting it off and don't even think about going through one more rainy season with that old roof. Take advantage of 12 months same as cash or get a new roof with payments starting for as little as $69 a month. Get your roof done by Peters & Dean, the largest privately held residential roofer in the U.S. and a GAF Master Elite dealer. We've installed over 1 million roofs and have been Florida's local roofing contractor for over 20 years. You get peace of mind with the industry's strongest 50-year Golden Pledge warranty. But don't wait. These rebates are only for a limited time. Just call 888-206-1141. That's 888-206-1141. It's the best time to get that roof taken care of with Peters & Dean. 888-206-1141. 888-206-1141. Florida license number CCC 132-9081, CVC 56726.
And for Karen Curtis, I'm Mike Burke with your 850 WFTL News Update. CBS 12 reports Hurricane Florence was located 25 miles east of Wilmington, North Carolina. Meanwhile, a convoy of FPL trucks have arrived in the Carolinas to assist residents and businesses with power outage restoration. More than 500 Florida Power and Light employees and contractors have arrived in the Mid-Atlantic region. Wade Hallmore, operations lead for FPL, say they will remain as long as their assistance is needed.
This is what we do. I mean, we love working at home and we love, restoring for our customers, but be able to travel and see something new and work with new people and restore for these people who are going to be so heavily impacted. It's a great feeling.
A former president is coming to South Florida to give Governor Rick Scott a boost in his U.S. Senate campaign. George W. Bush is the special guest at a fundraiser in Palm Beach tonight. Supporters can attend the Bush event for a suggested donation between $1,000 to $25,000. Meanwhile, enough is enough. Voting 4-1 last night, Lake Worth City Commission decided no more marijuana dispensaries. The majority of the commission cited a marijuana advocacy group recommending 1 dispensary per 67,000 people. There are currently 2 in Lake Worth. Those for the ban are awaiting direction from Tallahassee. 31-year-old Carlisle Douglas has been arrested. The West Palm Beach man has been charged with 5 counts of sexual battery on a child under 12 and 1 count of resisting an officer without violence. But reported this week, according to police, the assaults have occurred over the past 3 years. In sports, Thursday Night Football found the Baltimore Ravens falling to the Cincinnati Bengals. Final score there, 34-23. I'm Mike Bergen for Karen Curtis. Stay connected with news anytime at 850WFTL.com.
Feeling better? Looking better? That energy and stamina you wanted to get back? It's all possible. From the Sears Institute for Anti-Aging Medicine right in Royal Palm Beach. Hey, it's Bill Adams. That's what I've discovered there. But Dr. Sears has been on the cutting edge of regenerative medicine for years now as a pioneer in the industry, treating chronic illness, inflammation, weight gain, autoimmune disorders, and cutting-edge stem cell therapies for diabetes and Alzheimer's. It's total patient care at the Sears Institute. It's whole body healing, treating the cause, not just the symptoms. It's all about improving your health span as you grow biologically younger. Yes, that's possible. Actually reversing aging. Call the Sears Institute and find out how. 561-410-7813. 561-410-7813. People come see Dr. Al Sears from all over the world, but we're lucky. It's right here in our backyard. The Sears Institute for Anti-Aging Medicine. 561-410-7813 and check out SearsInstitute.com.
All right, I want you to pay close attention if you live in Palm Beach County. This is something that you need to be thinking about right now. We're obviously in the 2018 hurricane season. It's in the middle of us right now. This is Rich Stevens to tell you about MaxGuard Hurricane Windows. They are Palm Beach County's most trusted hurricane impact windows and doors provider. And MaxGuard is an industry leader in these impact windows and wind-resistant doors in Palm Beach County. And they make it so easy for you to get protected. You're going to save money on your electric bills. You're going to have more noise reduction than any other window on the market. They are the nation's leading company because of these special hybrid vinyl windows. They're like nothing else. Here's a great special they're doing right now. Free installation, 1 year, 0 interest, and 0 payments. Plus, if you call and make an appointment today, you qualify to win a trip to the Bahamas. 561-276-7100. That's 561-276-7100. Call now or visit them online at maxguardhurricane.com.
Do you have an insurance claim, pipe leak, roof leak, AC leak?
1 minute. We come back after weather.
Property claim management, estimating, and negotiations. American Public Adjusting is a local company passionate about helping their neighbors get a fair settlement. Call 561-644-0395 to speak directly to Pamela Brown, a licensed public adjuster who can answer all your questions and set up a free inspection, or visit AmericanPublicAdjusting.com. Ask about their gratitude discount for first responders and veterans. Again, that number is 561-644-0395.
Hi, folks. Good morning. Traffic is brought to you by Firestone Complete Auto Care. We're pushing into lunch hour. Not a bad drive. We are crash-free on I-95 as well as the Turnpike, and both of those up to speed at 26 minutes in between West Palm and Boca. Keep your car running newer longer. Come into Firestone Complete Auto Care September 13th to the 16th for their epic sales event and get $100 off any purchase of $500 or more. Whatever you drive, drive a Firestone. Restrictions and exclusions apply. Details at driveafirestone.com. I'm Erica Del Sordo with your traffic on 850 WFTL.
I'm meteorologist.
All right, you have 20 seconds for weather. Your intro is 32 seconds, by the way, Rich.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Afternoon storms, otherwise mainly sunny to partly cloudy with a high near 90. Over the weekend, looks pretty nice with a sunny to partly cloudy sky for Saturday and Sunday. Just a 30% chance for coastal showers today. 1 or 2 isolated inland storms, highs near 90.
Police protect our homes, families, businesses, and communities. Yet they're under constant attack. This is Cops Under Siege, featuring officers injured in the line of duty. Brought to you by Southern Yankee Guns. Now, here's Rich Stevens on Facebook Live and News Talk 850 WFTL.
And by the way, if you're on Facebook Live right now watching us on the Facebook feed, you have questions, please submit your questions. We also, in just a few minutes, we'll go to our live mic that we have for our studio audience, that you'll be able to ask questions here. During the break, it seemed like there were 5 or 6 different conversations going on, which got a little bit heated, which unfortunately was off the air. And these are the kind of things I want to get on the air. Patrick made some statements before we went into the last break. And Rich, who's sitting next to my right, let me quickly introduce all the panelists again. Christina McIntyre, Patrick Franklin, who's the Urban League of Palm Beach County President and CEO. Christine is the former New York City Transit cop. On the end with the cowboy hat is Sergeant Frank Danish. He's a former Boynton Beach sergeant and founder of Adopt a Cop USA, which is a great organization. Sheriff Alan Birdie to my left, who's the former Broward County Sheriff, and Rich Best, who's currently an active duty police officer, but he joins us today as the founder of Team South Florida, which is also a wonderful organization. We need more organizations like this. Rich just said that he wanted to address what Patrick had said right before the break.
How long's the show? Do we have a couple of hours or no? No, it has to be addressed. Our organization, our primary mission is honoring and remembering the law enforcement officers that are killed in the line of duty, supporting their families, their agencies. Our secondary mission is bridging the gap with the community. We have a gap between law enforcement and the community because of certain viewpoints that we have already heard. We have got to come together as a country. The parenting, the teachers in the schools, at home. Law enforcement officers go out there every single day. I agree with Sheriff a few minutes ago when he said he doesn't know any officers that condone police brutality. In fact, in my career, the only people that despise when law enforcement officers make a mistake, an egregious mistake, are law enforcement officers that are out there doing things positively for the right reasons. To reply to what some of Patrick said earlier, the cameras. I'll tell you what, my perspective, I wish I had a body camera. I used to not say that. Now I do. The last internal affairs investigation I had was because somebody thought that I was using profanity. It was a completely fabricated story. Myself and other witness officers got put through a whole lengthy investigation to talk about something that was not true. Had we had a camera, it wouldn't have been an investigation. Back to Las Vegas, Nevada, where, mind you, they've had, I think, 20 law enforcement officer involved shootings this year. 20. They have body cameras. From what I remember a couple of years ago, the ACLU was pushing and pushing and pushing for that police department to have body cameras. The officers were so out of line. There was so much violence. We need to hold these officers accountable. Well, what did the Las Vegas Metropolitan Police Department do? Almost immediately, there's a critical incident, especially an officer-involved shooting. They have people from the Public Information Office or command staff respond to the scene. They give a preliminary account of the events. Within 3 days, they're sharing body camera footage. What's happening now? Now you have the ACLU out there saying the police department is sharing too much information. There's too much video. There's too much coming on. Why? Because we see what we want to see. Our organization puts so much good stuff out there, bringing the community together, supporting these families of fallen officers that are left behind. We've reached out to media. Rich and a handful of media personalities are the only people that give us the opportunity to share it publicly. So we take to our own social media pages and do just that. Cut me off if you need to. I was just in Naples for another organization, the Brotherhood Ride. They bring police and firefighters together. They're riding their bicycles from Naples to Tallahassee, over 600 miles on a bicycle, in honor of first responders that have died in the line of duty. In the state of Florida last year, that's 20. Police, fire, and canine. I maybe saw one news station out there. One.
Well, they're totally taking the majority of the negative things that happen and exploiting them, and those go out to the media. And all these other things that the law enforcement officers do for the community as well, they don't put that on. That we see all the time.
It's not only law enforcement. We have a guy, one of my coworkers, his name is Reggie D. He's very popular in South Florida. He's doing something right now that a lot of people don't know about. If you listen to my show, you know about it because I've talked about it several times and had him on the air. He works for X1023, and he is walking from West Palm Beach to Seattle, Washington, walking.
Yes.
For I think it's 90 days. He's going to make this walk, all to bring people together for unity. And again, here's a perfect example. He's not gotten any publicity on
Right.
this.
Why isn't he
And
getting
I
any
can't figure this
publicity? That
out.
doesn't make sense.
Let me just add to it. All right, I run the Urban League of Palm Beach County. I fight like hell to get good stories put on media. Okay, it doesn't happen all the time. What you see is the issues, the fire issues that happen, the shootings, the incidents that will put. That's what media is putting out there on a daily basis. And the good stories, just like what you mentioned in with the bike, what Reggie's doing, we get it where we can. We get that input where we can, and sometimes in print, sometimes in other areas. I work with other organizations that are trying to put good stories out there, but it's always capacity. We don't have the capacity, we don't have the time, don't have the reporters, especially things that happen on the weekends, things like that. And it's one of my pet peeves that I'm always trying to get from organizations. How do I get those good stories out there? They can't compete with the shootings, or they can't compete with other issues that are going on in the news on a regular basis.
Well, I can tell you this. You have a new friend. You have my cell phone number. You can get in touch with me anytime. I would love to not only have you on, but to get your stories so we can get these stories out. And one of my missions has been for years, now more so than ever, to try to bring the black community together with the white community, regardless of political beliefs, and get to a point where we can do, I was talking about a story the other day when I was growing up in New York. Everybody would go out to either Long Island or the city to the clubs. You'd come back at 3 o'clock in the morning. Everybody would meet at the White Castle on Allerton Avenue in the Bronx. I'm not sure if you're familiar with that area.
Billy Bombers.
You wouldn't want to be there at 3 o'clock in the morning. It was the only place in the city where black, white, blue, green, yellow sat in a restaurant with police officers as well, in uniform. There was never, ever any kind of confrontation. Nobody fought with each other. Nobody put out knives or guns or peeled out of the parking lot because everybody was enjoying White Castle.
Well, Rich, that was a different time, because when I was growing up in high school, I didn't have to worry about somebody shooting me. Okay, not a police officer. I definitely didn't worry about that. I didn't have to worry about someone on the street shooting me. Okay, or approach me with an armed weapon. That just didn't happen. Okay, if you had an issue with someone, you had other ways to take care of that.
Where did you grow up, by the way?
Baton Rouge, Louisiana. So that's a different time, a different era. Our kids are going through a whole different way of living. The technology that they have in their hands provides them information that's so fast, so quick. They are light years ahead of us as far as with the information we know, what's going on, what's happening in our communities. But I want to go back to just one thing and just mention this. From an Urban League perspective, we've been working with our law enforcement agencies for years. When I say years, I mean 15, 20 plus years. We meet on a monthly basis with law enforcement from municipalities, from the sheriff's office. They work with our kids. We host a youth summit every year, which is hosted by law enforcement, where we have 500 plus young adults there, young kids. And this is hosted by a collaboration between municipal, City of West Palm Beach, City of Riviera Beach, City of Boynton Beach, City of Delray Beach, the sheriff's office. We meet and talk because we feel honestly is that the only way that we communicate is to make sure that kids are not afraid of law enforcement. I'm talking kids in the low-income urban communities, that they have a dialogue with them. Every year, we take 120 kids from this community, 120 kids every year, plus about 35 chaperones, to a youth crime prevention conference every year. This year, right in May, we went to Jacksonville. Next year, be in Tampa. The following year before that was in Orlando. But we do this because it's a 3-day conference with kids and law enforcement. The kids have seminars that are just for kids. Then we put law enforcement with kids together from all over the state. And it's a lot of black and brown kids who have not been exposed or have been exposed to law enforcement, maybe in a way that we didn't want to, but we're trying to correct that issue. But we've been doing this for years.
Working?
Yes, it's working because we have kids that when you see a kid having a dialogue with law enforcement agency, with a state trooper and others that they've never engaged with before on a positive area and in a controlled environment where they can sit and understand, listen. They first listen to each other because that's the key, because we want law enforcement to learn from the kids as much as the kids to learn and understand from the law enforcement. Yeah. So we've been doing this for years.
Yeah, it's a two-way street, and people, unfortunately, there are people that don't understand that it's a two-way street, Patrick. Let me interrupt you one second. We have a live mic. And we have a lot of people sitting here. If somebody would like to challenge or ask a question, challenge is probably a bad word, ask a question of the panel, we'd love to just have you step up to the mic. Please talk directly in the mic. Tell me your name and who the question's for.
Hi, my name is Linda Schaefer. I'm from Fort Lauderdale. My question is, do cops ever worry about retribution from perpetrators who have been arrested?
Can I answer that? After I retired and the 5 officers were murdered in Dallas, I got death threats at my police department. Now, I started a nonprofit to mentor kids with police officers, and the internal affairs guy called me and said, Sarge, we got an issue. You're getting all these death threats. And I'm like, what? And it was based on a traffic stop. Now, here's the part that I didn't know about the story, and this is where we come about communication. I was in a video that went viral. Nothing ever happened. No death threats. After they murdered the officers, I'm sorry, I didn't mean to point at you. After they murdered the officers, I talk with my hands. They I want to say an entertainer. I'm not going to say his name because I'm going to have a private conversation with him. He did a monologue in front of the video claiming all these things that police officers are doing to kill our society. And that's why I got all the death threats. And the only reason I got the death threats is I mentioned my name in the video. So it was the first time in my 28-year law enforcement career in the Coast Guard and Boynton Beach Police Department that somebody threatened my life. It wasn't so much that it bothered me about my life, but my son has my same name, and I was more concerned about his safety and somebody putting my son in jeopardy than somebody coming after me.
Changes the whole thing.
And the keyboard cowards that were making these threats, because they came to my personal Facebook page too, which is, I have no problem with a debate. And I answered all their questions, but they didn't know me. I can walk down MLK of my city any day of the week because I mentored a lot of children in Boynton Beach. And I never had a problem with any citizen coming after me personally.
All right, let's go back to the live mic. Your name and where you're from. I know your face.
Jordan Polite,
producer X1023 Sunday 63, which I said at the last siege. This is a great conversation. It's a great opportunity for all of us to come together. Before the first commercial break, we were speaking a lot about the police killing, and one of the officers made a statement that you don't know any police officers that wake up and say that I'm going to kill somebody today, which is very much true. But it's also, I think, it's an ultimate penalty, but it's not the only issue. Another issue that we're dealing with is the injustice, because police officers interact and know they don't always kill the suspect, but they mistreat suspects. So we like to talk about the situation is like Dallas, where a police officer is killing another black person. But what about the situation when a police officer is pulling over a black driver and he's putting him in handcuffs before probable cause, or doesn't even have probable cause to pull him over? It's the mistreatment. It's the image that's put on the black driver, on the black millennial, by the police officer before even interacting with the person. I think that's the mentality that we need to address. And of course, we need to address the killing and that's going on, but there's still black people being mistreated, and we're alive to tell the story.
But let me ask you this: isn't it also disturbing, like in particular the Dallas story that happened last week? When I heard the story, it was reported immediately as a white police officer shooting a black man. That's a problem in itself. I mean, why does color matter?
Color matters because this is the 100th time.
I get what you're saying,
it
but I'm
matters
just saying,
because this is America, and our country is based off it.
But the way the mainstream media is throwing these stories out at us, when we hear or when there is a story of a black police officer shooting a white man,
right,
we never hear those stories.
Right.
They're out there, but we
Of
don't
course
hear
they
those.
are. Of course
But
they
it's people trying to push their agenda. I want to get past that, as you do,
right,
and figure out the common thread that we can bring our communities together with our police officers. Who wants to? We have a couple of minutes left. Who wants to reply to this comment?
I do, Rich.
Okay.
And again, I understand everything you're saying, and it's like even Patrick brought up. This is a symptom of a greater problem in our society, not just one of law enforcement. And I'll throw the Colin Kaepernick issue into this discussion right now. When he goes on the field, and all segments of our community are offended by certain things, words, slogans, whatever it may be. But when he's allowed to go on the field and wear socks depicting police officers as pigs, that's offensive to law enforcement. He gets away with it. When the Dallas Cowboys wanted to put stickers on their helmets in tribute to the 5 officers that were murdered, the NFL told them no. So that kind of stuff fuels this fire and contribute to it. So it's a greater symptom of our divisiveness in society, not just law enforcement. That's just one part of it.
And that's why I think it's very important to continue to have all voices heard in panels like this, where we can bring the community together, where we can have an open mic and have people ask questions, where we can have the CEO of the Urban League, where we can have current and former police officers together. And I think the conversation obviously needs to continue and go even deeper. Your name and where you're from?
Nat from Broward County. If you look at Chicago, Baltimore, and the crime rates there, Tallahassee also, it's mostly black people shooting black people. You don't have white people going into the neighborhoods and shooting and committing crime. What do you think the role of the black family structure, lack of a father in the home? I dealt with this in the 1980s when I was teaching in New York City. And I know in my own life, the thing that made me obey authority, I was never afraid of what the school would do to me. I was afraid of what my father would do to me. And that doesn't exist in a lot of homes in America, white and black.
You want to take this one? We have about 2 minutes left.
The structure of the black family has decimated because of criminal justice, of the system and the laws that are in place right now. 80% of our prisoners and young men in prison are black. What's wrong with that? If you think that's a fair justification of what we're seeing in our prison, we need to change the laws that have taken away the black males out of society. We've lost we're going into the second generation that we're losing with black males right now. Okay.
So you're saying the Chicago murder rate is because of that?
I have nothing to do with Chicago. Okay.
Oh, well,
and I have no answer for Chicago. If you, sir, have an answer for Chicago, please give it. We need to change our society. But you're talking about the lack of the black male in the black family. And I gave you an answer for that because I said that many of our young black men are incarcerated, which is atrocious because of the laws that are in place right now that have taken away. And I've said again, we're into the second generation of black males that are not present in families.
I'm talking about people who are impregnating women and just not sticking around and not necessarily
You
in
talked
prison.
about the issue of the black family.
Yeah.
Okay, and I gave you a reason why it's
and
being
we just
decimated.
and the conversation continues to go back and forth, and I'm not sure. I hear what you're saying.
Yeah.
I hear what he's saying.
Rich, can I quickly reply to Patrick?
We only have about 30 seconds.
That's
left.
fine. I completely agree
30
with
seconds.
Patrick that we have a problem with the criminal justice system.
I agree as well. I mean, there's a tremendous
think
problem,
that's-
and we have to continue this conversation.
That should be
I
the
wanna-
next. That should be the next show, Rich.
Without a doubt.
Yeah,
without a doubt.
you need to make this show a little longer.
Well,
This
listen,
is too
listen.
short.
First of all, let me thank our panel guests again for being here. I do appreciate it. Thank our sponsor, Southern Yankee Guns in Delray Beach on Linton and Military. Our people in the audience for being here today. This is where you can clap because you've been awfully quiet. We appreciate you being here. I'm Rich Stevens, and we got to do it again. Thank you so much for listening and watching on Facebook Live.
For the latest information on the path of Hurricane Florence, stay connected at 8.